This is Brandon with Fleet Feet, and today I'm going to be giving you the Clash of the Titans, the mano y mano, the brother versus sister combo, the HOKA Rocket X2 versus the HOKA Cielo X1. They're partner in crime, but they're both race day shoes, and they both do some pretty cool, awesome things. They're made differently, so let's just dive into it. Starting first with the HOKA Rocket X2, this shoe is going to be your 5K to marathon day, race day shoe, whereas the HOKA Cielo X1 is going to be a little bit closer to that 10K to marathon distance. I don't think that this will be a shoe that you'd want to race for like a 5K, but for that marathon distance, absolutely, and those longer distances, absolutely. Whereas the HOKA Rocket X2, you can get a little bit more versatile with a few shorter runs in there, a little bit of some shorter races. By the way, I do need to mention that this colorway that you're seeing here of the HOKA Rocket X2 is not available. Unfortunately, I do really like it, but it is a proto colorway. I was given this shoe before the initial launch of all the new colorways came out for the HOKA Rocket X2, but this is a proto colorway, so unfortunately you can't get this one. But the good news is that HOKA did make a lot of other really sweet colorways as well. So if you're still looking for the HOKA Rocket X2 and you don't really love this colorway, there are other colorways as well. Moving down to the uppers of both of these shoes, you've got the HOKA Rocket X2, which has a synthetic mesh upper, as well as the HOKA Cielo X1, which has a knit upper. It is still breathable, but not as breathable as the HOKA Rocket X2's upper. Both of these shoes have gusseted tongues. I felt like the lockdown in both the Cielo and the Rocket X2 were great. I do like the laces a little bit more on the Cielo X1 than the Rocket. I felt like they were just a little bit more tight to the foot and provided just a little bit of a better lockdown. As you can see here, here's the structure of both the tongue and the lacing systems. The HOKA Cielo X1 just had a little bit more room for toe splay, and the toe box was just a little bit wider, so I did appreciate that. Moving down to the midsoles of both of these shoes, this is where things start to get a little bit more confusing. So both of these shoes have something called PEBA foam in them. So for those who don't really know what PEBA foam is, it is a lighter and less dense material of foam that's used than a traditional EVA. If you don't know what EVA is, it's just a denser version and less responsive version than PEBA. So for example, in a shoe like the HOKA Rocket X2, which is intended for a race day, you're probably going to get a little bit more of that premium foam, which is a PEBA foam, whereas say the HOKA Arahi is just a daily trainer, you're going to see more of that EVA. It's just going to be a little bit less responsive underfoot. Same goes for the Clifton, which is also made of EVA. So there are quite a few differences in the midsole of both of these shoes, even though that they both have PEBA. One of them is a dual density, where the other one is a dual layer. So the Rocket X2 is a dual layer of PEBA. The HOKA Cielo X1 is dual density. Both of these shoes do have carbon plates in them, but they're shaped a little bit differently. So the HOKA Rocket X2 is going to have a little bit more of a spoon-shaped plate going through the shoe for dynamic propulsion and stability, whereas the HOKA Cielo X1, they decided to do something a little bit differently. They went with what is called a carbon winged plate. So there is the normal shape and geometry at the top for the plate, but then what happens is they get the same plate system and they overlap two plates on top of each other. So it's not two different plates. It's actually all one plate, but they double up the layering of the carbon fiber one on top of each other to make this like weird wing shape. It really does provide like a lot of really fun propulsive bounciness, and it's just different than something that I've ever seen in any race day shoe. So it was really cool, and kudos to HOKA for really deciding to innovate and try something a little bit different with the wing plate technology. I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed it. So the HOKA Cielo X1, like I mentioned, has 2 layers of PEBA foam. So you're gonna have a bit of a lighter, more responsive foam at the top, a layer there. Then you're gonna have that wing plate like I mentioned, and then you're gonna have a bit of a firmer feel on the bottom for a little bit more ground stability and support going through your stride. Whereas the HOKA Rocket X2, it's got 2 layers of PEBA, but they're the same density and they're the same foam. So you're just gonna get 2 layers on top of each other that is split through that spoon shape plate. The HOKA Cielo X1 has a much more aggressive rocker shape and geometry than the Rocket X2. So the HOKA Cielo X1 is just going to have a lot more of a rocker feel. You're going to feel it in your stride. It's just going to be a little bit different. You can see how it's actually shaped here, the way the toe comes up so high and the heel comes up so high. You really get a lot of that rocking and rolling feel when you're going through your stride. The HOKA Rocket X2 is going to feel a little bit more traditional to, like, say, a Vaporfly or the Saucony Pro 4. It's just going to be more aggressive, and the spoon shape is going to feel pretty similar to what you're used to. HOKA calls the rocker system in the Rocket X2 a meta rocker technology, whereas this is just a more aggressive rocker technology, depending on what you're into. So if you want a more aggressive rocker, then go with the HOKA Cielo X1. If you want something a little bit less aggressive of a rocker system, but you still want a little bit of that rock and roll, then go with the HOKA Rocket X2. Another thing I want to mention about the midsole is the cutouts. So you can tell that there's some cutouts here in the Cielo as well as in the HOKA Rocket. Those are actually to save weight on both these shoes. So HOKA was really thinking about where are all the areas that we can save weight in the shoe while still retaining full rubber coverage or ground feel underfoot. And they felt like just cutting some of these little pockets here were really going to make all the difference in weight, and they really do. Overall, from a ride perspective in these shoes, I found that the HOKA Rocket X2 was just a little bit of that faster and snappier feel underfoot. I would trust it for a 5K. I also think if I'm trying to chase PRs, you can do it in the HOKA Rocket X2 all the way up to the marathon distance. With the HOKA Cielo X1, it's really all about that bouncy feel, that fun feel. It's more playful, and it's just going to be a little bit more relaxed underfoot, I guess you could say, but it's still a very fast shoe. Both of these are very fast, but the HOKA Rocket X2 is going to be more aggressive, a little bit faster, a little bit more nimble underfoot, whereas the HOKA Cielo X1 is just going to be more bouncy, a little bit more playful. It really is just like, what are you looking for in a shoe? Like, if you're going to toe the line for a marathon or any race for that matter, or if you just want to go out and do a workout, like, are you looking for something a little bit more playful and a little bit more fun? Then go for the HOKA Cielo X1. If you're looking for speed and you're going for top level PR speed, then I would go with the HOKA Rocket X2. As for the outsole, both of these shoes have a really strong outsole rubber coverage. I found that there were no issues in terms of durability or traction or grip when I was on the roads. So really impressed with what HOKA has been doing there. Durabrasion rubber, which is what they call their proprietary rubber here on the HOKA Rocket X2. The Cielo, they also have a full rubber coverage here as well. Really no issues with rubber coverage. Both of these shoes do have different drops and stacks. So you're gonna see in the HOKA Rocket X2 that it is a 5mm drop with a 36 in the heel and 31 in the toe. The HOKA Cielo X1 comes in at a little bit more of an aggressive drop at 7mm. So you've got 39 and 32 for the men's model and 37 and 30 for the women's model. I think the biggest difference overall in both these shoes is the weight. So the HOKA Rocket X2 comes in around a weight of 8.2 ounces or 232 grams for the men's size 10 model, and for a women's size 8 at 6.8 ounces or 193 grams. This is a pretty traditional weight for a lot of race day shoes. The HOKA Rocket X2 really falls in line with a lot of those other super day shoes and race day shoes. It's light enough that it's going to be able to really take you where you need to go and feel really feathery and light underfoot. Whereas the HOKA Cielo X1, it's just gonna be a little bit heavier underfoot. You're gonna feel it when you're racing and going through your stride. Right now, just when I'm holding both these shoes, the HOKA Cielo X1 is a little bit heavier. That is something to consider. If weight isn't really an issue for you, then I guess it doesn't matter so much, but I know that weight does matter for me in some instances, especially for when I'm racing. So for me personally, I think I would choose the HOKA Rocket X2 from a weight perspective. The HOKA Rocket X2 comes in around $250, where the HOKA Cielo X1 comes in at $275. Is there that much of a performance difference between these two shoes? I'm not so sure. I don't know if these shoes are compared like perfectly to one another. I think that both of them fit in your arsenal, but are pretty different. So the HOKA Cielo X1 is going to be more fun. There's going to be a little bit more bouncy, whereas the HOKA Rocket X2 is going to be more like light and nimble and fast underfoot. When you're paying $250 already for a shoe, and then you're gonna go into the $275 price range, things are starting to get pretty expensive. So I would choose the HOKA Rocket X2. I think it's just a little bit cheaper. It's going to be able to cover more distances. It's going to be a little bit more versatile. I like a little bit of a faster feel underfoot. It's still soft enough and plush enough and has that narrow lockdown fit that I enjoy. But if you're someone who's looking for something a little bit more accommodating in the toe box, you want something that's like next level technology, you want to try out a fun winged plate, and you know that this is still going to fit you for that marathon distance or those longer race day distances, then I would go for the Cielo X1. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. You will be paying a little bit more for the HOKA Cielo X1 than the HOKA Rocket X2. It's a newer shoe, newer technology, the wing plate system is new, so you're kind of paying for all that uppity technology, which I think is kind of cool too. So it just depends on what you're looking for here. If you like this review and you want to learn more about some of our shoes, make sure to check them out on the blog at fleetfeet.com, as well as keep following, like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be posting more videos each week to YouTube as well as to our Instagram. Just stay in touch, keep up with what we're doing, and stay up to date in all of the different social media channels that we've got going on. If there are other shoes that you want us to compare or review next, please let us know in the comments below.